Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Marco Nicolini.
I'm Nick Arnold.
And today's episode is about gifts for the watch noob in your life. Before we get started, today's video is sponsored by Watch Innovation Straps. And watch till the end to see how you could win your own watch innovation strap.
To kick things off, you might actually be considering getting that person in your life a watch. So one of the perfect watches that we have here is the Heuer Monaco, which was actually gifted from Jesse to Walter White in Breaking Bad later in the show.
Yeah, and also another interesting thing to point out about this watch is it is actually the original Steve McQueen watch, as he actually wore this watch. So the Rolex Steve McQueen always gets mistaken for something that Steve McQueen wore a lot, but that's just simply not true. And I'm not even sure why they deemed it the Steve McQueen. It just somehow got called the Steve McQueen, Explorer.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, you see everywhere ever he wears a Monaco. He doesn't really ever wear an Explorer too.
I'm sure there's some interesting history. I'll research it and get back to you guys on that. But interesting piece. But yeah, it's a great starter watch as entry. As the entry point of this watch isn't too terrible, especially if you're going to give it as a gift to your son, a husband, or colleague of sorts. Like, it's a very iconic watch and very historic. Has a lot of historical significance. Being that it's also a Tag Heuer, which has a lot of heritage in racing as well as Rolex. So for the lower bracket guys, getting into a watch like this is still a significant move. One other thing I want to talk about is if you've already bought a watch for your friend or your colleague or whatever, it's not a bad idea to throw in some straps, as straps really dress up a watch quite a bit, and you can really start changing the whole personality of the watch by going into different straps. This will definitely make it feel a little bit more sporty and robust. But you could also throw it on a rubber strap that Nick here has, and it definitely gives it that more sport-like feel.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always preferred bracelets, but after a while you kind of get bored of your watch and you want something that's a little different, but you're not really ready to pull the trigger on another watch. Get a strap. Get a custom strap. Get a cheap strap. Get a strap from us.
Yeah, so rubber is definitely the way to go during the summer, as I actually surf a lot, so I'm always on the weekends I spend a lot of time on the lakes. And a rubber strap definitely helps a lot because there's a lot of wear and tear going on a boat, for example, and the rubber just kind of offsets that wear and tear that bracelet's going to go through. A lot of companies make rubber straps that integrate the Rolex bracelet, but me personally, I don't prefer that because I'd rather preserve that and just beat up something completely off the head of the watch and not worry about any of that. But some people have their own, preferences. For me, like Nick's holding here, this is just a full-on rubber strap with a Tang clasp.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm wearing a rubber strap, I'm beating my watch to shit, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not wearing it to preserve the watch.
True. And while we're on the subject of gifts, another idea that I love is if you're not going to get somebody a watch, give them something they could really visually see. Get them a book about Rolex watches. This is a great way and a very fast-tracked way to learn about Rolexes, because this right here has a lot of useful information from kind of all the variations of Rolexes, that Rolex has offered from vintage to modern. And it also, this particular book even talks about how to spot fake watches. And it gives you kind of a loose idea of how to spot them. Obviously, it's not a book specifically about spotting fake Rolexes, but there is conversation in there to at least get you going on the idea of what to look for. But overall, this book right here, A Man and His Watch, is a very popular seller. I've probably walked into I can't tell you how many office spaces or other people's offices, and they have this book there, or even in their homes. I see this book everywhere.
Yeah, we pulled it off the shelf right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are a watch company, so we should have it. So
yeah, I think books are a great gift, especially if you're considering buying somebody their first watch. A lot of people ask me, because they know I'm into vintage watches, should I buy a vintage Rolex? Should I buy a vintage Heuer? And I'm like, no, stay away from them until you know what you're buying. You look at a plexi crystal watch or a manual wind watch, especially things that aren't a Rolex Oyster, you have water resistance concerns. It's like owning an old house. You got to replace your roof, you got to replace your everything. You got to get it repainted.
Yeah, it's not like I got to replace the whole watch.
It's a living being. It is not just slap it on the wrist and go. And so these books are a great way to learn a lot about vintage Rolex. There are several. There's Vintage Rolex by David Silver. There's Vintage Rolex Sport Models. A lot of great books that are very educational and informative without having to dig through forums for years.
Yeah, and you could also, a great series of books that I feel have a lot of useful information too are the Mondani books. Like, they're pretty good.
I mean, if you're buying a Mondani book, just go ahead and buy a Submariner because those are expensive.
True, yeah.
You are committed.
Yeah.
Even with the holidays coming up, there could still be other special occasions going on in your life. Maybe you're getting married, maybe you're having a first child, and there are always occasions to buy your first watch or maybe your 10th, especially for your loved one. And so with that, your price point could be all over the place. You could be looking at Hamilton, Omega, or maybe you're ready to pull the trigger on a Rolex. And a great entry-level Rolex is this 16220 Datejust I've got here on my wrist. This is a timeless watch that's gonna suit you on all occasions, last forever, and you're gonna be able to pass it down to your kids.
Yeah, we just talked about this as well. Like, that's a great starter watch too, but I mean, I think the one that really takes the cake is the sub. Like I said before, the ceramic sub, or even an older generation sub, even a vintage Rolex sub, all right there is definitely gonna be the best, like, most notable gift you could possibly give somebody as far as watches go. It's very easy to obtain. A Submariner could be a very sentimental gift. So, you know, when somebody's wearing it, they're always gonna remember that person, especially, and that's probably gonna also encourage them to wear it a lot. And this watch is definitely gonna take a beating, especially if they're wearing it quite often. Because I've had a lot of subs come through here, and I can't begin to tell you how much use I've seen these watches put up with, and it's pretty remarkable.
They go through a lot. It's interesting you speak about sentiment. I mean, sentiment can come in all forms with watch collecting. I think that's why both of us like vintage watches, is it's all about the story that watch told. Like, this was a 25-year commemorative gift for IBM employees after they served 25 years. But I mean, I also recently had a strap made from Aaron Bespoke where I sent him some leather that belonged to my grandmother and got something written about her on the back so that I can remember her on the strap.
That's really cool.
You know, there are many ways to be thoughtful when you're collecting watches, whether it comes in the form of a watch, a book, straps, or just a pair of socks with watches on them. I have a few of those.
Same. I almost wore them today. It would have been funny if you said that. I just go, boom, there it is. Just whip my foot up here and be like, there it is, socks.
I mean, this is a video engineered towards giving out watch gifts. So we want this to be a collaboration. If you think there's anything that we missed that might help another viewer, comment down below. And one of those lucky commenters we are gonna pick to win this pair of Watch Innovation straps. So stay tuned and see if you won on next week's video.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for me. And like always, we'll see you next time on next week's video.